The wrench clinked against the rusted pipe, a sharp echo in the dim underbelly of the office sink. Elias crouched, his knees creaking, his faded denim jacket brushing the cold tile floor. The fluorescent hum above flickered, casting jagged shadows over his calloused hands. He was used to this. Small jobs, tight spaces, the kind of work that kept him invisible. A mechanic's life was fixing what others ignored, and Elias, with his weathered face and quiet demeanor, was good at it. Too good, maybe, for the $15 an hour he scraped by on. The office was upscale, all glass and chrome, the kind of place that screamed money. Elias didn't belong here, not with his grease-stained boots and toolbox older than half the employees tapping away at their sleek laptops outside. But a job was a job, and the sink in the break room had been leaking for days, leaving a puddle that annoyed the suits. So here he was, summoned by a harried assistant who barely looked at him when she pointed to the mess. He twisted the pipe, grunting as it resisted. Water dripped onto his sleeve, cold and steady. Elias didn't mind. He'd fixed worse: sinks in diners, radiators in crumbling apartments, even a busted water heater in a shelter last winter, all for people who couldn't pay him much, if anything. He never turned them down. His mama, rest her soul, had raised him to help where he could, no questions asked. "The world's hard enough, Eli," she'd said, her voice warm as the bread she baked. "Don't make it harder." The pipe gave way with a groan, and water stopped dripping. Elias wiped his brow, satisfied, and started packing his tools. That's when he heard it, a faint, rhythmic thump, like a heartbeat, coming from behind the wall. He froze, screwdriver in hand. The sound was odd, not mechanical, not a pipe or a pump. It was alive. He leaned closer, ear to the damp plaster, and the thumping grew louder, urgent. "Don't go back there." The voice was sharp, cutting through the hum of the office. Elias turned, startled, to find a man in a tailored suit standing in the doorway. His face was all angles, high cheekbones, a jaw that could carve stone. The kind of face you'd see on a magazine cover, not hovering over a mechanic under a sink. The nameplate on his desk, visible through the glass wall, read Nathan Caldwell, CEO. Elias had heard of him, vaguely, some tech genius who'd built this company from nothing, a billionaire by 35. Caldwell's eyes, a piercing gray, locked onto Elias, unblinking. Sorry, sir," Elias stammered, standing, his toolbox clattering. "Just fixing the sink. It's done now." Caldwell didn't move. His gaze flicked to the wall, then back to Elias. "I said, don't go back there. Leave it." Elias nodded, confused but compliant. He wasn't one to argue with a man who could buy and sell his life 1,000 times over. But as he grabbed his toolbox, the thumping came again, louder, like a fist against wood. His gut twisted. Something was wrong. He'd heard sounds like that before, years ago, when he'd found a stray dog trapped in a storm drain. It wasn't mechanical. It was desperate. "Sir," Elias said, hesitating, "there's something behind that wall. Sounds like it needs help." Caldwell's face tightened, a flash of something: fear? Anger, crossing his features. "You're done here," he said, voice low. "Get your things and go." Elias should have listened. He should have walked out, cashed his check, and gone home to his one-room apartment with the flickering TV. But he didn't. Maybe it was his mama's voice in his head, or the memory of that dog's grateful eyes when he'd pulled it free. He set his toolbox down and stepped toward the wall. "Sir, I don't mean no trouble, but if something's stuck back there, I can get it out. Won't take long." Caldwell's hand shot out, grabbing Elias's arm. The grip was strong, too strong for a man who sat behind a desk all day. "I'm warning you," he hissed. "You don't know what you're dealing with." Elias froze, heart pounding. The CEO's eyes were wild now, not just commanding but haunted. The thumping grew frantic, and Elias swore he heard a muffled cry, human, small. His stomach dropped. He yanked his arm free, not thinking, just moving, and pressed his ear to the wall again. The cry came clearer, a child's voice, faint but unmistakable. "There's a kid back there," Elias said, voice shaking. "We gotta get him out." Caldwell's face went pale. For a moment, he looked like he might bolt, but then his shoulders sagged, and he ran a hand through his perfect hair. "Damn it," he muttered, almost to himself. "You weren't supposed to hear that." Elias didn't wait for an explanation. He grabbed his crowbar, adrenaline surging, and started prying at the wall. The plaster cracked, revealing a hidden panel, shoddily sealed. Caldwell didn't stop him now. He just stood there, fist clenched, watching as Elias worked. The panel gave way, and a gust of stale air hit them, carrying the smell of damp and fear. Behind the wall was a narrow space, barely wide enough for a person. Curled in the corner, trembling, was a girl, maybe 8 years old, her clothes dirty, her dark hair matted. She clutched a tattered stuffed rabbit, her eyes wide with terror. Elias dropped to his knees, his voice soft, the way he talked to a scared animal. "Hey, sweetheart," he said. "It's okay. I'm gonna get you out of here." She whimpered, shrinking back, but Elias kept talking, low and steady, until she let him scoop her up. She was light, too light, her arms thin as twigs. He carried her out, glaring at Caldwell, who hadn't moved. "What the hell is this?" Elias demanded, his voice rough with anger he rarely let out. "Why's a kid locked up in your damn wall?" Caldwell's jaw worked, but no words came at first. He looked at the girl, then away, like he couldn't bear it. "She's not supposed to be here," he said finally, voice barely above a whisper. "No one was supposed to know." Elias set the girl down on a chair, grabbing a bottle of water from the break room counter and handing it to her. She drank greedily, clutching the bottle with both hands. He turned back to Caldwell, fist balled. "Start talking, or I'm calling the cops right now." Caldwell sank into a chair, looking smaller than his suit allowed. "Her name's Lila," he said. "She's my daughter." Elias blinked, the words not computing. "Your daughter? You locked your own kid in a wall?" "It's not like that," Caldwell snapped, then caught himself, rubbing his temples. "I didn't lock her there. She ran away. From me. From this." He gestured vaguely at the office, the empire he'd built. "Her mother died 2 years ago. Lila's been troubled. Acting out, disappearing. I thought she'd gone to her aunt's, but then I found her here, hiding. She won't talk to me, won't let me help her. I didn't know what to do." Elias stared, trying to process it. A billionaire CEO, with all his money and power, hiding his own kid in a wall because he didn't know how to be a father. It was insane, but the pain in Caldwell's eyes was real, raw, like a wound that wouldn't close. "So you left her there?" Elias said, incredulous. "She's starving, scared out of her mind." "I didn't leave her," Caldwell said, voice breaking. "I brought her food, water, blankets. I was trying to figure out how to get her out without everyone knowing. The press, the board, they'd eat me alive. I'd lose everything." Elias looked at Lila, who was watching them silently, her rabbit pressed to her chest. He thought of his own childhood, the times he'd gone hungry because his mama couldn't stretch the paycheck far enough. He thought of the people he'd fixed things for, people who had nothing but still shared what they had. And here was this man, with everything, too scared to do right by his own blood. "You're a damn fool," Elias said, not caring who Caldwell was. "She don't need your money. She needs you." Caldwell flinched, like the words were a slap. Elias turned to Lila, softening his voice again. "Lila, honey, you okay to talk? Can you tell me what happened?" She hesitated, then nodded, her voice small. "I didn't want to be here. Daddy's always busy. He doesn't see me. I thought, if I hid, he'd look for me. But he didn't." Caldwell made a choked sound, covering his face with his hands. Elias felt a pang of pity, but it didn't excuse what he'd done. He knelt beside Lila, meeting her eyes. "Your daddy's messed up, but he's here now. And I'm here too. We're gonna make this right, okay?" She nodded again, a flicker of trust in her gaze. Elias stood, looking at Caldwell. "You got one chance to fix this. Take her home. Get her help, real help, not just throwing money at it. Or I swear, I'll make sure everyone knows what I found here." Caldwell nodded, tears in his eyes. "I will. I promise." Elias didn't trust promises from men like Caldwell, but he trusted the fear in his voice. He stayed until Caldwell called a private doctor and a therapist, until Lila was wrapped in a blanket, eating a sandwich from the office kitchen. Elias watched them leave, Caldwell holding Lila's hand like it was the first time he'd ever done it. The next day, Elias went back to his regular jobs, leaky faucets, rattling engines, the small fixes that kept the world turning. He didn't expect to hear from Caldwell again, and he didn't. But a week later, a letter arrived, no return address. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note in messy handwriting. Asterisk, thank you. She's seeing someone. We're trying. In. Asterisk. Elias stared at the check, then tore it up. He didn't fix things for money. He fixed them because someone had to, because a pipe left leaking or a kid left hiding would only break worse over time. He thought of Lila's eyes, the way they'd softened when he promised to help. That was enough. Months passed, and the story faded from his mind, buried under the grind of work. Then, one chilly morning, he saw them on the street, Lila, her hair clean and braided, laughing as she tugged Caldwell's hand toward an ice cream shop. Caldwell looked tired, human, but he was smiling, a real smile, not the kind you see on magazine covers. Elias tipped his cap, unnoticed, and kept walking. The world was hard, like his mama said, but sometimes, just sometimes, a poor mechanic could fix more than a sink. Sometimes, he could fix a heart.